I found a hidden phone in our closet. She used it to text men who paid her for attention. It started with a scarf. That's all I was supposed to find. A simple favor. Emma was in the kitchen stirring something on the stove, and she shouted up the stairs, asking if I could grab her gray scarf, the soft one, the one with the little stitched flowers near the edges. Said it should be on the top shelf of the closet, probably behind one of the winter boxes. I didn't think much of it. I headed into our bedroom, opened the closet, and reached up. The closet light was off, but I didn't flip the switch. I'd been in there 1,000 times. It's our space. Shared. Familiar. So I just went by feel, brushing my fingers past coats, a few purses, that puffy winter jacket she swore she'd donate 2 years ago but still hadn't. My hand hit something soft, then something harder, cardboard corners. I nudged one of the old storage boxes aside, thinking maybe the scarf had fallen behind it, and that's when I felt it. Cold. Smooth. The shape unmistakable. My fingers paused. Then I gripped it, pulled it forward into the slice of light coming through the bedroom window. A phone. Not mine. Not hers. At least, not one I'd ever seen before. It was a matte black rectangle with a slim case, no stickers, no charms, no identifying marks. It looked newer than either of ours. Clean. No cracks. Battery screen blinked on briefly as I adjusted my hand. Still charged. Still alive. I stood there for a second, completely still, just holding it. It was the strangest feeling, like holding a secret that hadn't confessed itself yet. I glanced down the hallway. No footsteps. No sound. The house was quiet except for the faint clinking of her stirring something downstairs. I should have called out. I should have asked, "Hey, did you get a new phone? Or whose is this?" Something normal. But something about it didn't feel normal. Something in my gut pulled me back. I didn't even press the screen. I just stood there, turning it over in my hand like it might give me an answer if I stared long enough. And the longer I held it, the worse the pit in my stomach got. The closet suddenly felt smaller. The light colder. I carefully leaned forward, pushed the storage box back into place, and slid the phone exactly where I'd found it, wedged just behind the box, tilted slightly against the back wall of the closet. It wasn't placed there casually. Someone hid it. Purposefully. And that someone was my wife. I closed the closet door. My hand lingered on the knob for a second too long, like I was still deciding if I imagined the whole thing. Then I turned and walked out. My heartbeat wasn't racing yet. It was more like a slow, pulsing drumbeat behind my ribs. Something had changed. Not in the room. Not in the house. In me. I walked downstairs trying to act like I hadn't just touched something that felt radioactive. Emma was still by the stove, humming along to something on her phone. Her actual phone. Sitting right there on the counter. "Did you find it?" she asked without looking up. I hesitated for half a second. "No," I said. "Might be in the car?" She frowned a little, not annoyed, just distracted. Weird, I thought I left it up there. Oh well. And just like that, it was over. That moment, that window where I could have said something. Closed. She served dinner like nothing was different. We sat at the table like always. She talked about work, some annoying coworker she couldn't stand, some girl who kept mispronouncing quinoa. I nodded and smiled, said the right things, pretended to laugh when she did. But I wasn't there. I was still in that closet. Still holding that phone. Still hearing my own voice lie for the first time in a long time. After dinner, we sat on the couch like any other night. She pulled her legs up under a blanket, nestled against my side, scrolled through TikTok while I pretended to watch the news. Every time her screen lit up, I caught myself glancing at it, wondering what the difference was between that phone and the other one. What was that second phone for? Why was it hidden? And how long had it been there? By the time we went to bed, my chest felt like it was stuffed with static. She curled up, kissed my shoulder, and fell asleep within minutes. Meanwhile, I lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan. Its software felt like a countdown. I didn't know what to do. My brain kept cycling through stupid possibilities. Maybe it was an old work phone. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe. But no part of me believed that. Because if it were innocent, it wouldn't be hidden. Not behind winter boxes. Not in a dark corner of a shared closet. It wouldn't be turned on. Charged. Ready. I didn't sleep that night. I watched her sleep instead. I watched the person I'd built a life with. The person I trusted with everything. And I started to realize how little I actually knew about what she did when I wasn't around. I thought we were solid. I thought we were open. But that phone changed something. It was the beginning of a question I hadn't even figured out how to ask yet. And once the question existed, I couldn't unask it. I couldn't unfeel what I felt. The next morning, everything was the same on the outside. She made coffee. I got ready for work. We kissed goodbye. Routine. Easy. But I couldn't stop hearing this voice in my head whispering that something was off. Not loud. Just persistent. Like a leak in the ceiling you can't see but you know is there because the drywall's getting soft. I didn't go back for the phone. Not that day. But I knew I would. Because I had to. Because that quiet little rectangle was sitting up there in the dark, pulsing with answers to questions I hadn't dared ask. And no matter how calm I looked, no matter how normal everything seemed, I knew, deep down, that life had split. There was a before the phone, and now there was an after. That night, when the house was quiet and I could hear the fridge humming like a metronome in the dark, I slipped out of bed and walked down the hall barefoot, every step feeling heavier than the last. She was asleep, curled up with her face half buried in the pillow, one hand draped over my side of the bed like it was instinct. I didn't even turn on the light. I didn't need to. I knew exactly where I was going. The closet door opened without a sound. I reached back behind the winter boxes, found the tilt in the cardboard, and felt that same cold edge against my fingertips. The hidden phone. Still there. Still alive. I stepped into the hallway with it in my hand, moved to the guest bathroom, and locked the door behind me. For a second, I just stood there, holding it. My reflection looked back at me from the dark screen, tired, older than I remembered, like I'd already lived a year since yesterday. Then I pressed the power button. It lit up instantly. No password. Just a blank home screen with a few apps I didn't recognize. The kind you don't use for talking to friends. The kind you use when you don't want your real life to be involved. I opened one, and that's when everything shifted. It wasn't just texts. It was a world. A curated performance. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of conversations. Men with usernames like CityGent45 or Just Looking to Play. Messages that started innocently enough. Hey there, you're gorgeous. Thanks for replying. But they escalated. Fast. Compliments became propositions. And she was responding. Not just replying, engaging. Charming. Flirty. Like she'd done it before. Like she knew exactly what they wanted to hear. I kept scrolling. I don't know what I expected to feel. Anger? Betrayal? But mostly it was this eerie numbness. Like my brain couldn't catch up to what my eyes were feeding it. Photos. Some just selfies. Some not. Nothing I could show in court. But enough to know. Enough to understand exactly what was happening. There were videos, too. Short clips, suggestive without being explicit. Just enough to trigger compliments. Tips. Requests for more. And they paid. Oh, they paid. I tapped into her Cash App. Her payment history read like a grocery receipt of shame. 50 here. 100 there. 250 with the caption for last night. I scrolled back weeks. Then months. The deposits were frequent. Predictable. Regular. Like a second income. She wasn't just being unfaithful. She was monetizing it. Selling versions of herself to men who would never meet her, never know her real name, but still sent money like she was theirs. She thanked them. She flirted with them. She told them they were her favorites. She used hearts. Winky faces. Voice notes. One man sent her a playlist, said he listened to it when he thought about her. She told him she played it too. Lied, obviously. Probably never even opened it. But he believed it. Because that's what she made them believe. That they were special. That she was theirs. That they weren't just another line item in a spreadsheet of secrets. There were timestamps that burned more than the messages. One of them? Sent while I was sitting right next to her on the couch, watching a movie. She'd been under the blanket, phone in hand. I thought she was scrolling through Pinterest. Looking at recipes, maybe. We'd even laughed that night. I remember it. She was smiling. But it wasn't for me. Not really. Another one, even worse, sent while we were away for our anniversary last year. She'd said she was checking directions to the restaurant. I remember her turning the screen away, saying she hated using Apple Maps. But she wasn't lost. She knew exactly where she was going. And who she was talking to. The worst part? The tone. How easy it all came to her. There was no hesitation. No guilt in the words. She'd built a system. A voice. A persona. And she managed it like a professional. She had favorites. She had tiers. Some of them paid more and got more. Some she kept warm with emojis and promises. But she knew them all. Remembered their details. Replied fast. Even asked about their days like it mattered. She'd once joked to me that she hated texting. That it exhausted her. That she only really texted me and her mom. That lie landed differently now. I don't know how long I sat there scrolling. I just remember the screen going dim once, and me tapping it again without thinking. My thumb moved like it was disconnected from the rest of my body. I wasn't even reading every word anymore. Just absorbing the pattern, the repetition, the fact that it never stopped. Page after page of digital infidelity wrapped in winks and dollar signs. It didn't even feel real. And yet it was the realest thing I'd seen in our marriage in a long time. Eventually, I put the phone down on the bathroom counter and stared at it. Not like I expected it to apologize. I just couldn't believe that something so small could hold something so heavy. All those words, all those lies, all that time. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, chest hollowed out, stomach tight. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like her husband. I felt like her mark, her audience, her prop in a life she performed online. I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. But I also couldn't explode. Not yet. I needed more. I needed to understand the scale, the structure, the method, not for closure, for control. Because the truth wasn't just that she was cheating. The truth was that I never saw it coming. And if I didn't see this, what else had I missed? What would you have done in that moment? Would you have woken her up and demanded answers? Or would you sit, like I did, in the dark, with a phone full of strangers whispering everything you weren't enough for? I didn't touch the hidden phone for a few days after that first night. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't risk getting caught. She'd gotten careless hiding it once, sure, but that didn't mean she wouldn't notice if something shifted. So I played it slow, careful. The night I unlocked it and saw everything was the last time I opened it without gloves on. Figuratively, anyway. After that, I treated it like evidence. I'd wait until she was asleep, or out running errands, or taking one of those long baths she loved with her AirPods in and a glass of wine beside the tub. I'd slip into the closet, grab the phone, and work fast. And this time, I wasn't just looking. I was collecting. Screenshots first. Dozens at a time. I captured everything, the messages, the pictures she sent, the way she responded to compliments like she'd been doing it her whole life. Some conversations were flirty and shallow. Others were bizarrely deep, like she learned how to mimic intimacy for the price of a Venmo transfer. One guy said he felt like she got him. Another said he'd never felt this kind of connection before. She told him she felt it too. I took a screenshot of that one and just stared at it for a while. It was the same line she'd said to me the night I proposed. Word for word. But I didn't stop at messages. I dove into the payment records. She used multiple apps. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, even a crypto wallet I didn't know she had. I created backup accounts for each one and sent files to a cloud server under a dummy name. Nothing that could be traced to me. Every single transfer had a note. Some of them were downright embarrassing. Others were just gross. Thanks for the peek. Can't stop thinking about you. You're addictive. Some were just dollar signs and hearts. But every one of them proved the same thing. This wasn't some flirty hobby. This was business. A stream of income. Structured. Repeated. Intentional. I found her notes app, too. Tucked between grocery lists and reminders was a full-blown content calendar. Pin dates for drops, reminders to follow up with big spenders, even notes about which guys liked what. One liked voice messages. Another liked early morning pictures. Another was obsessed with her feet. She knew them all. Catered to them. Like a schedule she stuck to better than anything we planned together. And what hit me hardest? Her time with them didn't cut into her time at work. It cut into her time with me. I began cross-referencing timestamps with our shared calendar. While I was making dinner, she was sending flirty audios. While we were supposed to be watching a movie, she was cashing in compliments. One transfer came through at the exact minute we were at our son's school event. I remember standing beside her, clapping for our kid while she smiled and squeezed my hand. She just made $75 for a photo sent 5 minutes before. Every piece of evidence added weight. Not just to the phone, but to my chest. But I didn't let that weight crush me. I let it fuel me. I stopped reacting. I started documenting. Organized. Methodical. I made folders, messages, photos, transfers, user profiles, metadata. I even backed up the emails tied to the second phone's accounts and dug into the recovery info. It was a burner Gmail, but it had been created 2 years ago. She'd been doing this a long time, maybe longer than I'd realized. All the while, I kept up the act. I smiled when she smiled, kissed her goodnight, laughed at her stories. I let her believe nothing had changed, but everything had. I became silent, focused, like a hunter learning its prey's pattern before the trap closes. And to keep up appearances, I made sure to never seem suspicious. If anything, I leaned into routine. Took her to dinner one night. Helped clean the house. Asked how work was going. She talked about clients and projects and some annoying HR rule about using personal phones during office hours. The irony almost made me choke on my drink. It wasn't just the betrayal that ate at me. It was how smoothly she lived this double life. She looked me in the eyes every day and smiled. Kissed me. Joked with me. And all the while, she had a hidden world full of strangers calling her beautiful and paying to feel like they mattered. I wasn't even sure if she liked doing it, or if she just liked the power, or the money, or maybe she liked being wanted in ways I didn't make her feel anymore. But whatever the reason, it didn't change the fact that it was a choice. One she made every day, repeatedly, willingly. I started using a burner phone of my own, not to contact anyone, but to mirror everything. I downloaded the same apps, created backup accounts, stored everything off-site. I didn't know yet what I'd do with all this data, but I knew I had to have it. Because if there was going to be an ending to this story, it wouldn't be some messy, emotional explosion. No, it would be quiet, cold, controlled. I'd let her keep pretending. Let her keep laughing at her phone and thinking I was clueless. But with every screenshot, every bank receipt, every romantic message to men who thought she was only theirs, I built a case. I even started checking our finances. Not just her personal transactions, but our shared spending. And that's when it really hit me. Some of the things she'd bought over the last year, the new watch, the upgraded camera, even the weekend trip she said was just a girl's thing, had been covered in part by this side hustle. I traced money trails, compared dates, created a spreadsheet that tracked her online activity against our life. It was surreal, like watching someone Photoshop themselves into a fantasy life, then living it behind your back. She wasn't just cheating on me emotionally or physically. She was living off it, thriving in it. I stayed calm, collected, even when I wanted to scream. Even when she came into the room and wrapped her arms around me, kissed my neck, and told me how much she appreciated me. I smiled back, said me too, told her she looked beautiful. Every lie that passed my lips was a mirror to the ones she sent strangers for profit. But mine had a purpose. Mine were strategic, because I was getting close. I had the data, the proof, the map. Now I needed to find the right door to walk through. I didn't want to just leave her. I wanted to understand why, what she got out of it. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted her to see it from the other side, to feel what it's like to be the one fooled. And that's when the idea started. Quietly, subtly, just a seed. What if I didn't confront her as myself? What if I confronted her as someone else? Someone she'd never suspect. Someone she wanted. Someone she trusted. I had everything I needed. Her words, her patterns, her favorite lines. I'd been studying them. Studying her. And soon, she was going to meet someone new. Someone perfect. Someone just her type. She just wouldn't know it was me. The idea came slowly at first, like fog rolling in under a door. I didn't plan on talking to her. Not at first. I just wanted to understand. To collect, to observe, to know. But the more I read, the more I saw the rhythm of it all, the more I realized how patterned it was, how predictable. She had a type. She had weaknesses. She liked a certain tone, a certain balance of charm and confidence. She liked men who praised her like they'd just discovered something rare, like she was this hidden gem only they were smart enough to recognize. She liked compliments that felt personal. She liked the fantasy of connection without commitment. It was all there, in the way she talked to them. She gave them access, but never completely. Teased, rewarded, pulled back. She knew what she was doing. And that's when I knew what I had to do. I started with the app itself, the one she used the most. I downloaded it late one night while she was asleep, the same way I had done everything else. Quiet, cautious, deliberate. I didn't use my name. I didn't use my photo. I didn't even use my phone. I had bought a separate burner device just for this, registered with a number from a service that couldn't be traced. I built the profile like I was building a weapon, carefully, intentionally, one brick at a time. The name I chose sounded like someone who had money, but didn't flaunt it. The bio? Simple. Just enough to make someone curious. I kept it vague, just like the men she liked. Traveler. Investor. Always chasing sunsets. Looking for something that doesn't play by the rules. The photo took more effort. I couldn't use my face, obviously, but I couldn't use a model either. It had to be believable. So I took a composite approach. Found a few AI-generated images that looked just real enough, handsome, mid-30s, clean cut with just enough edge. The kind of man who looked expensive, but casual about it. The kind of face you'd think twice about ignoring. I chose one, adjusted the lighting, added a slight blur around the edges like it had been snapped on a beach vacation. The kind of guy who had a story. Not a boy. Not a creep. The type she usually answered within minutes. I spent days watching how other profiles spoke to her, what worked, what didn't. I studied the way they introduced themselves, how they flattered, how they asked questions. The ones who got quick replies were never desperate. They teased a little, kept things light, always ended their messages with a soft hook. So I crafted my first message like a lure. Not too long, not too short. Just enough. Didn't expect to find someone like you here. But now that I have, I'm curious what brought you on. I sent it. Then I waited. Less than 10 minutes later, she responded. Curiosity. Boredom. Depends who's asking. I stared at the screen. That was her voice. Her real voice. The one she used when she was playing. When she was pretending. And yet it was her. My wife. Responding to a stranger. Only it wasn't a stranger. It was me. I smiled. Just a little. Typed back. Let's say someone who knows exactly how boredom feels. But also how rare it is to find someone who makes it disappear. 3 dots. She was typing again. That's a good line. Do you use it often? I paused before replying. Only once. So far. She laughed. I could tell. Not because she said, haha, but because she followed up with a playful emoji. The same one she'd used with those other men. I remembered it. I'd screenshotted it. She was falling into the same rhythm. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. What I felt was in control. Over the next few days, we talked more. I kept the tone right where she liked it, confident, slightly teasing, but always respectful. I asked about her days. She gave vague answers. She hinted at being married, then quickly steered away from it. Said it was complicated. That made me pause. Not because I was surprised, but because I realized she had her story ready. A version of her life, polished and edited for strangers. And I wondered how many times she'd told it. How many times she'd said, it's complicated, while sitting 2 rooms away from me. We talked late at night. She always initiated after 10 p.m., once I was asleep. She didn't know I was in the other room, watching the typing bubble appear in real time. We started sending voice notes. Hers were low and soft, flirty in a way that made my jaw clench. She was good at this. Better than I wanted to admit. And yet, the better she was, the more obvious her patterns became. She always took a little longer to respond after a compliment. Played coy. Built tension. Then rewarded it. She used the same 5 emojis, the same type of phrasing, the same laugh typed as lol, like she was trying to seem casual but amused. It was almost robotic. Like a script she'd memorized. I matched her pace. Mirrored her energy. Flirted just enough. Pulled back just enough. I said the right things at the right time. Not because I was guessing, because I'd been studying her for weeks. I knew what made her lean in. What made her feel seen. And every time she responded faster, opened up more, offered a little extra detail, I filed it away. This wasn't just a game. It was a test. And she was failing it beautifully. One night, she asked what I looked for in a woman. I paused before typing. Someone who knows who she is, but doesn't always let everyone else see it. Her reply came almost instantly. I like that. Feels like me. I almost laughed. Of course it does. Because I wrote it for her. Another night, she said, talking to you is easy. I replied, good things should be. She sent a heart. A black one. Her favorite. I copied the message, logged it, timestamped it, and stored it in the same folder where I kept all the others. Because I knew exactly how this would end. I wasn't improvising. I wasn't just playing along. I was setting the stage. And soon, I'd ask to meet her. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere nice. Somewhere she'd dress up for. But not yet. First, I had to become her favorite. And I was almost there. She didn't just reply to me anymore. She waited for me. I noticed it the first time when I took a night off. Didn't message her at all. Didn't log in. Just sat in the living room with her, watching a show we used to love, while she barely made it through a single episode. She checked her phone every 10 minutes, opened and closed the app, glanced at notifications, then at me, then back again like she was waiting for something that never came. I played dumb. Laughed at a scene I didn't hear. Asked if she was okay. She smiled, said she was fine, but her phone stayed in her hand for the rest of the night. I went to bed early. She stayed up, claimed she wanted to finish some laundry. I knew better. I waited until I was in the bedroom, door closed, then logged into the fake account. Her message came through less than 2 minutes later. You disappeared tonight. Thought maybe I said something wrong. I didn't respond right away. I let her sit in that silence. Let her wonder. And the next morning, she was in a better mood. Kissed me like she used to. Made me coffee without me asking. Said she had weird dreams but felt better now. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and smiled into my cup. She had no idea she was chasing me in disguise. Over the next week, I tightened the grip. I gave her more of what she craved: attention, praise, fantasy. But I did it slowly, deliberately. I always ended the conversations first. Always left a little curiosity hanging. I never got too personal. Let her fill in the blanks. Let her build the version of me she wanted to see. The me I gave her was rich, free-spirited, charming but grounded. I wasn't aggressive. I was interested, intrigued, just unattainable enough to keep her hooked. And she took the bait over and over. She began messaging first. She started telling me things she hadn't told the others. Said I felt different, that I listened, that I didn't just want her body, I wanted her thoughts. I almost laughed reading that, knowing the irony, knowing I was the only man in her life who actually did know her thoughts. Because I had them all backed up on a server folder named E. One night, she sent a photo. One of the more risque ones. Not explicit, not graphic, but clearly meant to stir a response. I recognized the outfit. She'd worn it the night we had dinner with her sister. A tight dress with a low neckline she said she picked just for the occasion. I remember her asking me how she looked, and me saying she looked beautiful. Now I knew who she really wanted that answer from. I didn't respond to the picture right away. I waited. Let the timestamp burn a hole in the conversation. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then she followed up with too much. And that's when I replied, no, not enough. You're stunning. I just didn't want to say the wrong thing. She melted. I could see it in the way she texted after. Her tone shifted. Sweeter. Softer. More invested. I just pulled the perfect move, showed restraint, respect, desire, and she rewarded me with a flood of affection. From there, it only got easier. She started telling me about her day before I even asked. Told me things she hadn't told her girlfriends, or even me, her real husband. She admitted she hated her job, that she felt invisible, that she'd started doing this, meaning the app stuff, because she needed to feel desired again. Seen, that she didn't want to leave her marriage, but that sometimes she felt like she wasn't alive in it anymore. That line hit me, not because it hurt, but because it proved she was trying to justify it to herself. Make it seem like she wasn't a villain, just a woman looking for something she wasn't getting. And I knew how to feed that story. So I did. I told her I understood. Said I'd felt that way too. That sometimes the people closest to us stop seeing us fully, not because they don't care, but because routine blurs the lines. I told her she was radiant. That it was clear just from the way she wrote. That I could tell she wasn't like the others. And she ate it up. She started sending longer messages. Voice notes with just the tiniest quiver in her tone, like she was holding back something deeper. And I let her. Never pushed. Just opened the door and let her walk through on her own. She talked about how hard it was to keep this side of her a secret. How lonely it could feel, even when men were constantly messaging her. I told her loneliness doesn't come from silence. It comes from being unheard. She called me poetic. Said I was ruining her. That she was thinking about me during the day now. At work. At the gym. That her husband had no idea. That he was checked out. That she felt like they were just roommates at this point. I stared at that message for a long time. Roommates. I wondered if she thought about what that word really meant. What it said about us. And then I realized she wasn't talking about me. Not really. She was talking about the version of me she kept in her head. The one who hadn't caught her yet. The one who still believed she was tired from work. Distracted by stress. Bored with routine. That guy didn't know anything. That guy kissed her goodnight while she messaged a stranger under the covers. But I knew. And I was winning. Every time she opened up, I made her feel safe. Every time she hinted at guilt, I reassured her. I gave her a perfect space. No consequences, no judgment, just flirty compassion. I became the outlet she never expected to crave. And she fell harder. She even started talking about seeing me. Not in a suggestive way. At first, just hypothetically. If we ever met. Followed by dreams, fantasies, scenarios she imagined. Coffee shops. Rooftop bars. Walking by the beach. She wanted me to imagine it, too. She wanted me to want her out in the open. And I let her keep wanting. Because every word she sent me was another string in the web. Every photo, every secret, every line of pretend connection was fuel for the moment I knew was coming. I'd become her favorite. She told me so. Said I made her feel something no one else had in years. That she checked her phone more for me than for anyone. That she didn't want to be anyone else when we talked. That with me, she could be real. And that's when I knew it was time. I waited until she was particularly warm one night. Giddy. Saying she wished we could talk without screens between us. That she wanted to hear my laugh in real life. That she wanted to sit across from me and actually feel what she was feeling without the walls. I gave her what she was asking for. I said I'd be in the city soon. Business trip. Just a few days. But I wanted to meet. Just for a drink. No pressure. She didn't hesitate. She agreed. Said it would have to be quick, but she'd make it happen. She even asked what she should wear. I said something simple. Something that made her feel good. She replied, I already know what I'll wear. I want you to see me like you do when we talk. I stared at that message and thought, you have no idea how I see you. The date was set. The location chosen. A nice hotel lounge she'd walked by once and said she always wanted to try. Fancy, but not flashy. Discreet. Perfect. And when she walked through those glass doors looking for the man she thought had changed her life, she wouldn't find a stranger. She'd find me. The day of the meeting came quiet, clean, like it didn't know what was about to happen. She was humming around the house that morning, doing light makeup even though she said she wasn't going anywhere important. I'd caught her checking her reflection in her phone camera 3 separate times. Her mood was giddy, light, like the early stages of a crush. Like hope in disguise. I played my role. Said I might be working late. That I'd have leftovers when I got home. She kissed my cheek, barely, already halfway out the door in her mind. I watched her disappear down the steps, watched the car pull out of the driveway, and then turned back inside to collect everything. I arrived at the hotel before she did. She didn't know the place. I chose it for that reason. Upscale enough to impress, quiet enough to isolate. I asked for a corner table near the back, where the lights were dim, the air cool, the music soft enough to mask tension but not conversation. I ordered nothing but water. The folders sat on the table in front of me. Thick. Structured. Lined with tabs and receipts and proof. Her hidden phone lay next to it, screen down, completely still, but heavy as a weapon. Every part of this setup had been rehearsed in my head. The angle of my seat. The line of sight to the door. The timing. I wanted her to see it before she saw me. I wanted the realization to hit in layers. The room, the table, the objects, and then me. When she finally walked in, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Right on cue. Hair done exactly as she described in the messages. The same top she'd teased in the cropped photo. Heels she hadn't worn in over a year. She scanned the lounge with that half smile that people wear when they expect to be complimented. And then her eyes hit the table. She saw the phone first. Her pace slowed. Then she saw the folder. She stopped. Her brows pulled slightly together like a thread tightening. She knew. Not the details. Not the full extent. But instinctively, in that second, she knew it was her world sitting right there, exposed in the open. When her eyes finally met mine, she didn't smile. There was a pause in her walk, a flicker of confusion, then recognition, then disbelief. The color drained slowly from her face, not all at once, but in waves, like something ancient surfacing in her chest. She approached the table like it might vanish if she blinked. Like maybe this was a trick. Her mind was processing in fragments. The outfit she'd chosen for a stranger. The man she thought she was meeting. The man she now realized had never existed, or worse, had existed all along. She didn't sit. She hovered, looking down at the phone like it might speak. She stared at the folder like it might explode. I didn't move. I wanted her to linger in that moment. I wanted her to feel it, the silence, the trap, the undeniable weight of what she thought she'd hidden forever now laid bare with surgical precision. Her hands moved slowly. One reached out, hesitated, then pulled the folder open. She skimmed pages. Screenshots. Bank logs. Messages with timestamps that aligned too perfectly with our shared life. She flipped faster, I starting. I could almost hear her heartbeat from across the table. I didn't speak. There was nothing to explain. Her face shifted through phases, shock, panic, denial, a flicker of humiliation, and finally something that looked like grief. Not for what she'd done, but for the mask that had been ripped away in such a brutal, controlled way. She reached the last page. A short letter. Not angry. Not emotional. Just factual. A list of what I knew. What I'd seen. What had already been copied and secured. and one sentence at the end stating that I no longer required anything further from her. She closed the folder. She looked at me again, and I saw tears welling, but they didn't fall. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to speak. She didn't. Or maybe she couldn't. And still, I stayed quiet. I needed her to sit in it. Not scream. Not plead. Just exist in the hollow space between guilt and realization. The fantasy was over. Her fake lover was real, and her real husband was done playing. I stood, calm, steady. I left the folder on the table. I left the phone. I left her, standing frozen beside the table with everything she had tried to compartmentalize now bleeding into her hands. The air behind me felt lighter. Not clean, but less contaminated. I walked through the hotel lobby without looking back, knowing that no words exchanged could have done more damage than what she'd already read with her own eyes. She texted that night. Several times. Her messages were frantic at first, then soft, then broken. She said she didn't know what she was doing, that she missed me, that she didn't think I'd ever find out, that it wasn't about love or leaving or anything that dramatic, that she just wanted to feel something again. I read every word without replying. What more could I say? She'd already said everything to me, to the stranger, to herself. And now, finally, she was alone with all of it. It wasn't rage that ended this. It wasn't vengeance. It was clarity. And in the end, I gave her what she wanted, an escape, a fantasy, a man who made her feel something. But I also gave her what she deserved, a mirror. And she couldn't look away. All that time playing pretend, did she forget how real consequences feel?